Mention punk rock to most people and they'll instantly think of the Sex Pistols. In an age where ABBA and Boney M ruled the charts alongside Gary Glitter and Mud, the Pistols' arrival was a breath of fresh air that blew away those sad disco cowboys. That breath of fresh air turned to the hustle of bad breath as the hype-fueled bandwagon fell apart, leaving the media saying, "Told you so." As the critics pronounced punk dead, the movement went underground, and by 1980, bands spawned by the original punk phenomena were making a noise of their own. Gone were the bad old days, where art school students were charged a fortune for dustbin liners in the King's Road, and here were the days where the music was being made by ordinary working class kids. One band of these working class kids came from Edinburgh and went by the name of The Exploited. Surrounded by controversy from day one, this band has a history almost as notorious as Jack the Ripper.
Are you dirty? You will never beg about you. Of the cage, are you dirty? You will never beg about it. Read about it in today's political newspaper.
After forming in early 1980, this bunch of upstarts, led by ex-soldier Watty Buchan, quickly got themselves noticed through their on-stage antics. Hard-hitting street rock anthems became the band's trademark, and constant gigging paid off for the band, as they soon found themselves supporting the likes of the Cockney Rejects and the UK Subs. The Exploited soon found their feet and on their own name label released their first single, Army Life. The B-side of this single featured a light favourite, Fuck the Mods, which was attacked by the music press as mindless due to the amount of gang warfare which was going on at the time. Nevertheless, this didn't stop the single reaching the top end of the indie charts. With a nationwide surge of street punk, journalist for the now defunct Sounds music paper, Gary Bushell, took the movement under his belt and named it Oi. Oi was about working class traditions and keeping the music where it belongs, on the streets. It warned of the dangers of a new generation of kids being left on the scrap heap.
First heard of The Exploited through the Army Life single, which what his girlfriend Carol brought down to London for me to hear. And I was really impressed by the raw power of it. You know, this was obviously a band who had something different about them, some energy, a lot of punch to it. And I thought, well, and the B-side made me laugh. The old "fuck 'em odd" thing was really funny. I just, you know, so I made it single of the week, I think, in Sounds that week.
I believe in anarchy.
The Exploited's staunch belief in anarchy stopped them from ever really becoming an Oi band, though with a stigma attached to it after the well-documented Southall riot at an Oi concert in 1981. This was probably a good thing. With the media blackout on Oi and the rise of right-wing musical activities, accusations that the band were fascist were made due to a fight with a gang of Asians in a motorway cafe and Watty wearing a swastika on stage. His argument that he just winds people up weren't accepted as justifiable on this occasion, and with gigs often turning into minor riots, arguments were raised about the morals of the band.
The first 2 years, we got called a fascist band. Like it's really hard for us to get gigs because we used to wear swastika armbands and all that. Because it was just us dress how you want, but it was not what you do with being a Nazi or fuck all. But as soon as you get labelled a fascist band or an NF band, nobody wants to know you.
This didn't stop the band contributing 2 tracks to Bushell's first musical compilation, Oi the Album. I Still Believe in Anarchy and Daily News stood side by side with tunes from established bands like the Angelic Upstarts and the Cockney Rejects, as well as newcomers to the scene like the Test Tube Babies. With a now stable lineup of 20 Stone Giant guitarist Big John Duncan, bass player Danny McCormack and drummer Drew Sticks, the bands were headlining gigs of their own and building a phenomenal following nicknamed the Exploited Barmy Army after the second single. Paranoia grew as the major music mags became interested, placing Watty & Co on the front covers only months after abusing the band and the movement. This turned out to be a classic case of built up, knocked down. By the beginning of 1981, new bands like The Last Resort and The Business were rising, whilst the Exploited were being hunted by record labels eager to cash in on their success.
I first met them, oh God, it was many years ago, late 70s. I met them, I was running a company called Secret Records, which we'd set up as a punk label, and I met the Exploited. They just had a record out called Army Life, which was a very successful record for them. I think it actually went on to have something like 5 years in the independent chart without ever going out for a week, which was incredible. And they were looking to move labels, and I was quite interested in them. I thought they had a lot of potential. And we signed them to the label, and then I took over as their manager as well. The first time I ever saw them play live, I was just gobsmacked. And I remember Watty sort of making me stand behind the drums so that people wouldn't actually hit me with anything. It was very strange, very strange.
That's what some dogs want.
In March of 81, the band signed a secret record and within 3 weeks released their third single, Dogs of War, which peaked at the bottom end of the national charts. Around the same time, a stunning live album was recorded in their hometown at the nightclub venue. Featuring all the singles plus more, On Stage captures an atmosphere that can never be repeated and has never quite been captured in a live recording since. Verbal abuse between songs was aimed at everyone from the Edinburgh Police to Spandau Ballet, with a prize jiver anarcho-hippie band Crash that started a war that ran for years and completely divided the punk movement.
Then he's like Crash! Crash, I wouldn't bunch of wankers, you know.
What his argument with Crash was that he wanted to live his life the way he wanted, not having to answer to anybody, regardless of the consequences.
SBG, violence, destruction! SBG, murder's corruption! Fuck the SBG! Get there, cunts! Come on!
After a speed-induced frenzy at a gig in Holland, and having been seen openly smashing 2 riot policemen's heads together after trouble at a gig in Germany, feelings towards the Exploited were unanimous. Love them or hate them. Violence at gigs was becoming commonplace, and the Exploited had their fair share of promoters who were scared to put them on a bill in case of trouble. The band themselves did nothing to ease this problem, and on certain occasions were known to join the crowd in trashing clubs.
I tour managed them for about 2 years in all over the UK mainly, and little trips into Europe. It was a pretty aggressive period, that punk period. There were lots of problems. There was it was the start of what ended up being a thrash metal thing with people jumping on stage and diving off, although that wasn't really happening then. It just tended to be stage invasions, and it was sort of fairly aggressive times, I suppose. Particular things that were of interest were keeping them out of the way of the police, trying to keep them in hotels that they'd wrecked until it was sufficiently late in the day for them to leave. The sort of destruction that went along with that was never done with really particularly with any malice. It was always done with that sort of just horseplay, just fun, just having a good time. It seemed to be necessary to take things from hotels. It was part of it, you know. People would sort of televisions out of hotels. I don't particularly remember that happening. I remember marble plinths with bowls of flowers 6 foot high ending up in the back of the minibus, you know, where they'd just carried them out of the hotel when they left, wrapped in a duvet from the hotel. It was just done for the hell of it, you know. If a painting in a hotel room was screwed to the wall, they'd unscrew it and take it away. If it was just hanging there, they probably wouldn't go. It was just idiocy, but fun, really good fun, really enjoyable.
Punk's Not Dead, the band's first studio album, was released to mass critical acclaim, breaking into the national charts and being voted top independent album of 1981 by Sounds. The album contains studio versions of most of the live album, plus some brand new tracks, Free Fight, Son of a Copper, and a classic studio row between Gary and Big John over the arrangement of Blown to Bits. SPG and Royalty showed the band's attitudes towards authority and the royal family, while Sex and Violence pleased fans and horrified non-fans. The band's first headline tour was the now infamous Apocalypse Now tour, teaming up with Discharge, Antipasti and Crongen. This tour really helped put punk back on the map and wage war on the establishment. Still constantly gigging from one end of the country to the other, paved the way for the next single, Dead Cities, to crash straight into the top 30, selling over 150,000 records and wielding an unearthly appearance on Top of the Pops, which the BBC now claim, we have no record of the band ever appearing on this show.
Starting to do very, very well, and they had an appearance on Top of the Pops which was just hysterical. I mean, it was quite ridiculous, and I think a lot of their fans thought at the time that they were selling out, and they just missed the point that they were just totally taking the piss. And the single was selling very well, and I always remember the day before we did Top of the Pops, they sold 15,000 singles in one afternoon, and the day after Top of the Pops was aired, they sold 50. That was it was probably the only group that sold less records a day after than the day before.
What did you make of the Top of the Pops appearance?
That was quite amazing, really. I mean, the single came out, Dead Cities came out, and it sold an incredible amount and charted, and then it was, we want them on Top of the Pops. Went along there. I mean, they did set it up very well. They set it up with explosions and pyrotechnic devices and everything to go with it, which was very good on behalf of Top of the Pops. Some of the most difficult things was trying to keep Big John, the guitarist, you know, who was about 22 stone there with a bright green Mohican, from joining in with Legs & Co. on the dance floor. We had to try and keep him back all the time. He wanted to be part of that. And they were doing the Birdie song at the time, which made it even worse because it was the most puerile thing. But it went very well, surprisingly well. I mean, it completely stopped the records selling, as far as I remember. Everybody went, "They're on Top of the Pops, I'm not buying that." And it killed it stone dead, but it was still a wonderful experience to do it with a band like that. You don't get many of those chances.
No, but at the time we took the Pops, like, we got slagged off in the paper, in the papers there. We got slagged off a lot, saying like, fucking, we're sold out because we've been Top of the Pops. We were the last punk band that was on Top of the Pops, and like, it was only we thought, like, if we'd never done it, then we wouldn't get to show people there's punk's still alive, yeah. So we done it. And like, don't really regret it. I do in a way, but I don't. But in another way, I don't. Because it was good to have done. It's good to have done, but like, I mean, if the chance came up again, I'll do it again.
Well, what are the regrets you've got?
Regrets for doing it? One of the regrets was people like split a lot of their following up here. Some of their following, they're on TV. There's like, and we're getting like more people come to the gigs because they're sold out because we're playing bigger venues. But so that wasn't true. But that was just like not a lot, but one or two. They gave the press a field day because they were trying to split the punk movement up. If you punk, like if you exploited like Anarchy and Chaos, and if you anti-crashes like Anarchy and Peace shit. So when we first started, we had a fucking massive local kind of following, right? And it's like when you sign to it, you get any good press for that, you start getting a bit bigger. The people that followed you from the beginning, they think like, you're sold out because you're in the papers or you didn't play in a bigger venue. Yeah, but it's like, it's just like shit. But a lot of the bands, they thought, some of the bands do think they're too good. Come in and then they changed the music, like well, Blitzed and that, they changed the music totally and did a big like skinhead following. And you just can't do it, It's just like, it's like when we do our albums, like, I might have one or two songs and that might be a bit different, like faster or a slow one, just to, but it'll still be in the same theme as like what Exploited, what we're into. You've got to remember that people, I always feel like if I like something, we do a record and if I like it, then that's what I judge, like the people will like it because I know if I like it, they'll like it. But if I was going to do something completely different, I wouldn't put under the name Exploited, because you'd just be exploiting the people. Because they'd be buying it thinking it's Exploited, they'll buy it, and when they hear it, it's a totally different music. It's like I like rave music. I got a lot of raves. No, over here in Holland, but like that's where the Gabba fucking like Nightmare and fucking Nightmare in Rotterdam and stuff. I like the hardcore rave stuff. But I wouldn't bring out an album or rave stuff and put it under the Exploited. But I could if I was a cunt, but I wouldn't. I'm a cunt, but I wouldn't put it out.
After the Top of the Pops appearance, anarchist band Conflict joined the attack on the Exploited by bad-mouthing them whenever possible and writing a song for their debut album called Exploitation, claiming you don't need to go on Top of the Pops to get your message across. This pushed the rift in punk even further and has never been settled to this day, despite many pitched battles between the Barmy Army and the Conflict crew. Attention was now being paid to the band's drug and alcohol abuse. An aging pop star, David Bowie, intrigued by the maniac lifestyle of the band, turned up backstage and was seen drinking till dawn with 3 of the band in a London club. The Dead Cities tour, which took the band to most of Europe as well as an extensive UK tour, finished at a headlining gig at London's Rainbow Theatre, where the band hit more controversy when at the end of the set Wattie suggested the crowd go fuck 'em odd, knowing full well the Jam were playing only a few hundred yards away at the Michael Sobel Sports Centre. After the double A-side single, Alternative Attack, came the Troops at Tomorrow album, the title track of which was penned by the Vibrators. With a cartoon sleeve that was pure heavy metal imagery, the music had also hardened, with a guitar sound not that far away from the Pistols Bollocks album. Packed with Terrorist-style sing-along choruses and fast guitar riffs, the album went straight into the top 10 on the national chart, reaching a peak for the band's success.
Past the albums have been very sort of small budgets. They'd had what they'd made up for, what they'd lacked in sort of technical performance, they'd made up for in energy and enthusiasm. But we wanted to, they were starting to write a lot better songs. And we decided that it was time to make people sit up and take notice and really show exactly what they can do. So we invested a lot of money in those days. I mean, thousands and thousands of pounds, and we put them in a really good studio, and they recorded it. I mean, I still think it's an absolute classic album. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But that was a lot of fun because I think at the time they were also in a situation where they were suddenly realising just what they could achieve, and they were enjoying it more every day. It was a good experience. And it was nice to see a group coming out of themselves and realising, shit, we can really do this. It was good, but it didn't stop the fun either. Wattie was still handcuffing girls to sort of the entrance way of the studio. I mean, it was good.
The following single, Computers Don't Blunder, saw an awareness of nuclear destruction that was to stay with the band to this very day, whilst the B-side, Addiction, gave a non-glamorous account of the dangers of drug abuse. The first US tour was a 6 weeks coast-to-coast affair, which also took in Canada. On the band's return, disturbing reports that Wattie was receiving star treatment hit the grapevine, causing a great amount of unrest in the camp. With bands like The Exploited being used as pin-ups and given almost pop star treatment, and punk's dwindling success, one-time friend and eye connoisseur Gary Bushell turned his back.
Punk was always supposed to be about thinking for yourself, doing things for yourself and doing your own thing, and too many people become clones, and too many people were just going through the motions and singing the same old things, the same old chord structures over and over again, and I thought, well, this ain't what it's supposed to be. It just turned in, it's as sad as seeing like a teddy boy now. You know, it lost its point, and they've forgotten what it was all about, and it wasn't just to become another fashion or another pose, it was about to, you know, making a statement about yourself and developing yourself. I mean, punk was about individuality, and it had become a uniform.
This one article rocked the foundations of punk, from which it never really did recover. Be it that punk was only a fashion, to some, or that people realised music can only create awareness and not change, is unknown. But from that day, it was an uphill struggle for bands like The Exploited to survive. With concert violence at an all-time high, with right-wing skinheads being blamed for smashing up punk gigs, The Exploited, with their reputation preceding them, took the brunt of concert halls closing their doors to punk and skinhead bands. New drummer Danny, who'd taken over from Drew Sticks, was crumbling under the pressure. He was replaced by what his brother, Willie. Sticks, incidentally, was later sentenced to 7 years imprisonment for armed robbery. Never too proud to drink at the bar of a gig and talk to the crowd, The Exploited were also known for smuggling in people who couldn't afford entry fees and, much to the annoyance of their fans, pulling out of gigs at the last minute because of promoters charging extortionate entry prices to gigs, thus gaining the label unreliable as well as dangerous. When secret main man Martin Hooker left the label, the band were disillusioned with the company's direction and left. Due to various contracts being signed when the band were naive, umpteen unofficial t-shirts and compilation albums started to bear The Exploited's name. Without a decent label, owed over £2,000 from the first record, and allegedly not paid in full by Secret, the band themselves were being exploited.
Ron Peter Patterson, he manages DRI and stuff. He's like, he was his money, he's in for a fucking kicking as well. We come to the States. So was who else? Mark, what was his name? Malcolm Forrester. It was him that ripped us off for fucking all that money in the past, and like we couldn't get a lawyer or fuck all, because like in the business, the record business, that you can't get a lawyer with all money up front. So like he fucked us over for he's fucked us over for at least 8 years. But that's just life that you got on with it. But like record wise and that, like I know what I'm doing. I've got more control over what's happening, so we don't get exploited like we did in the past. Because they bring in records, like look, they bring in old record companies, they bring records and stuff, and we're like, we don't want to bring them out because they've already been out. And they bring them out and just take cash and make money, yeah? It's fucking shit.
So you have no control over what comes out of your back catalogue if you...
No.
No?
No, because the cunts just done what they want. But we have now, we control it, we control it now. We've got control now, but in the past we never had any control. And there were all these bootlegs, like Totally Exploited. Okay, there's like, there was 4 or 5 bootlegs. Right, the only way we could get back at them is to fucking like visit them, and smash their offices up here and fucking threaten them. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it never.
Labelless, the band were contacted by indie label Pax's boss, Marcus Featherby, who had known the band for some years previously. The band signed to Pax for an album and a single. Bassist Gary quit the band and was replaced by ex-Screw Tees member Billy. Gary went on to form various pre-techno bands with limited success. Ironically, at the same time, Big John had had enough and decided to leave, but not before recording the Rival Leaders EP and Let's Start a War album. The album was panned by sounds writer and oi poet Gary Johnson, accusing the band of not being worthy of their place at the top of the punk tree. What his obsession with nuclear holocaust and dying for the government's convenience was rife in most tracks. The The B-side of the EP featured a track called Sing Along a Bushel, dedicated to Gary Bushel, and with the chorus being plainly, wanker.
Sing Along a Bushel, well, I understand why they did it, and I think it was genuine. I mean, I was seen as a traitor for having said that punk was dead, but what people didn't realise was I'd said punk was dead because punk was getting stale.
So I don't know what it was when we just like, he started writing, doing articles about bands, but he'd go under the name Jerry Harris. He didn't have a boss, he'd slag it, he'd say like, what you say, review the Exploited gig, and he'd just like slag you off, you know, they're fucking shit, really crap and that. And he wasn't even there, he just made it up. Right, and so that's why in the end we wrote a song about him. Yeah, because I thought he's fucking being really two-faced.
Is there any evidence or proof that that was him? Because
I know it was him.
Who is Jerry Harris?
Jerry Harris. He was a writer, he was a punk writer beginning of the 80s, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't he write for Sounds and probably that punk magazine?
Yeah. No, doing the research for this, I thought it was you writing under another name.
No, I wasn't Jerry Harris, no. I know he was.
He done it to Start the Dogs, done it to him for Riot, done it to the Upstarts, done it to Cockney Rejects, done it to all the bands, done it to Sham. I mean, it's just his way of getting back. I don't know why. Maybe because we didn't like agree with everything he said. But even saying that, I've nothing against the guy. I mean, he done a lot for us. And I'm not going. I respect him for what he done. But in the end, I thought he was a shit thing that he done. But then that's life. He just got on with it.
As Bushel himself works up the ranks to his current position at the Sun, the Exploited themselves seem stuck in the twilight world of the seedy venues in which they were playing. From tiny clubs and halls through to major London venues and then back again. The Exploited had turned full circle. Bushel was right. The Exploited may destroy themselves, but they'd never sell out. What his belief and practice of keeping on the same level with the fans had earned him respect. A nationwide hunt for a new guitarist found Carl Morris from Bolton, with Billy also being replaced by Wayne. The UK tour ended in disappointment for London fans when a 100 Club date was cancelled, but still advertised by the club. By '84, Bushel's prophecy had come true. Punk rock was chasing its own tail. Exploited imitators were shouting the same message without treading any new ground, and tartan bondage trousers were available at your local high street store. The Exploited themselves were off touring the world, spreading a message of revolt, and as the UK punk circuit became smaller and smaller, the worldwide market was becoming bigger than ever, with the Exploited being at the top of the tree. Misplacing trust in Featherly, the band were ripped off again when he ran off with the takings from the Let's Start a War album. Yet more controversy hit the band when it came to light that they'd used American artist Pushead's artwork for the album cover without paying him and rubbing off his name. In '85, a massive tour of Britain with the UK subs culminated at London's Lyceum in a 6-act bill including 999 and the English Dogs. Around the time Bob Geldof was putting together Band Aid, Wattie himself was writing Horror Epics, the song attacking Western apathy towards third world countries, and the title track for an album released by Connection Records in 1985. Again covering nuclear destruction, as well as attacking the social security system and the police, they managed to sum up their feelings towards the government in an explicit song entitled Maggie. Co-produced by Wattie, the sound was a new direction for the band and received a rare rave reviewing sound. Whilst pop stars who believed they had more power than the government played benefit after benefit and gained increased album sales, the Exploited continued to confront real social issues warned of 4 years before, with little or no interest from the press. The pressure of touring told, and an alleged onstage fight between Wattie and Carl in the US put pay to that lineup. With Wayne also leaving, the 2 vacant places were filled by ex-Combat 84 and UK subs bassist Deptford John, and Mick, who mysteriously disappeared not long afterwards, on guitar. The poorly recorded Live at the White House album, recorded on the '85 US tour and featuring the previous lineup, was the next release. Featuring all the band's hits, it also contained a provocative slander of Jello Biafra, of the US punk band The Dead Kennedys, and another of what his arch enemies.
Job Biafra? Can't remember though. Maybe come back to me later on. Can't remember what the fuck it was about. I can't remember what it was about. Some of the things that Crash done were were good. I've got a lot of respect for what it's trying to do the records, but there's a lot of things they done as well that I disagreed and lied. Like they said all the money that they gave out and they done this and done that. We done Let's Start a War, and that was recorded in their studio. But what they've done is they've got their friend, the studio's in their friend's name, but it's not in the band, it's in the friend's name, and so they don't get the comeback, but they were making fucking good money. I can't remember how much, but they're making fucking good money. Kind of, so that way they were lying to the kids, they were lying to the kids as well. I just hate liars. I respect Crash compared to bands like Conflict. Conflict's like total shit, like.
Well, what is your opinions on him?
Well, Conflict, just shit. Like they reform, they just preach that much shit. It's all lies. Like they jumped on the Crash bandwagon, right? It was like, and then they started putting out all this literature about animal rights and all this different thing. They didn't believe like the anti-drug bust. If you got busted, like sending your what you call it? Sending some money, right, and they'll pay your fines, kind of like we demonstrate on demonstrations. No, all the only thing they ever done was just buy drugs with it. We went to buy some drugs and clothes. Hey, fucking lying cunts. I just really fucking hate them because a lot of people believed in them, right, and a lot believed what they were about, and they're just like total shit. Like they said that they wouldn't, they'd never ever do like big venues or that. They'd never play for like so much. They'd never charge as much. They'd never play these venues. We were touring the States and we're playing the same venues as us. We were talking like big venues and we're charging the same money, So everything they preached about, right, it's just like, it's total shit. But it's maybe take a while, like I say, it takes a while. But then when the kids come to see a second time, whatever, like they can tell you if you're talking to me, talk to them. They can tell if you're genuine or if you're just a fucking liar. That's rock and roll. It's like they're a big like independent paper that covered music for the world, They're really big, and like they just wrote said that we were Nazis and that. We always get this everywhere, like exploiting Nazis, and then they put this exploiting Nazis and like blah 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 blah. But everything they wrote was fucking total lies. So I phoned them and asked them, well, why don't we come and do an interview and meet the band and fucking find out the real facts? But it just continues over the years to put out shit. So well fuck, I mean it's like, so they're just like fucking assholes, just like, don't even like, take right about bands that like fucking lick their asses, man, like he was in the paper saying that he had been paid, and the songs that's in the like exploited ripped him off. Excuse me. And it was a shit, it was lies. He might have been ripped off, but at the time I thought he'd been paid. So when I was asked, I was saying, well, he's been paid, he's talking shit. Obviously Marcus has bumped us, there's no much chance of paying him. And that's what it came down to, But like, there's no argument, like, I've not got any arguments with Bosshead. Maybe it's just through like people telling lies, once again. But now looking back at times, I used to always think I was right all the time about things, about I never done that, I never done this. But sometimes I wasn't right, I was wrong. That doesn't answer your question, does it?
Yeah, but as in what? As in what examples to that?
Well, like, there's a lot of things like, I used to, like, it's like thinking, well, if somebody tried to fuck us about, like at a club, and they'd say, well, you're not getting paid because there's damages. And I'd say, wasn't it? Like, it's not our fucking fault. And they'd say, well, you're not getting paid, right? So they start smashing it up. And like, looking back at it, sometimes it was my fault, because like, the damages was caused by us.
Involved in brawls and being arrested in just about every country there is, the Exploited continue to tour the world and also make regular appearances at the 100 Club in Oxford Street, London, after being banned from there some years earlier. On one of these appearances, they were supported by Big John's new band, the Blood Uncles, who dissolved after a creative dilemma with Virgin Records. Further setbacks hit the band when their rehearsal room was broken into. Over £1,000 worth of equipment was stolen, leaving the band with only a microphone to their name. On the US leg of their world tour, their bus was desecrated by the anti-punk brigade.
On the road, I mean, they were probably, in some ways, a nightmare to deal with, and in other ways, they were extremely well behaved. They were very professional. They'd always be at the place on time. They'd always be up on time. Those sort of things. They were brilliant, much better than groups that I have to deal with today. But once they came off stage, they were a little unusual. In Germany, and I mean, I can always remember, Wattie rolling around on the floor with some girl covering her in butter and things like that. I mean, while her boyfriend was standing there, too frightened to do anything about it. And some of the gigs were broken up with tear gas and Wattie banging riot troopers' heads together and things like that. I mean, it all goes to make for an unusual after-show party, but they were, on the whole, they were great. But I mean, they were deadly at the same time.
I remember one particular hotel in, I think, somewhere near Stevenage, where I left the bar quite late and went back to my room. I got the doors open on the lift and I could smell that very sweet smell of grass that had been smoked by them and the crew and anyone else who was around. The lift doors opened and I got in and it was quite strong. I went up to the floor and there was this haze across the lobby, and as I walked down the corridor I couldn't actually see the end of the corridor. It was quite thick with smoke. I went and knocked on the door and you couldn't see the other side of the room. It was so full of smoke. Everything got a little out of hand. There were some powder fire extinguishers that got let off that night. And eventually the police got me out of bed at about 4 or 5 in the morning and said, get them out the hotel now. We won't do them for smoking drugs, but there's a woman at the end who's had a heart attack. An old lady who had this powder. I don't know if you've ever seen a powder fire extinguisher go on, but it goes everywhere. And that had come under the door. She completely freaked out and phoned the hotel manager, who'd come up and gone, what on earth's going on here, called the police. And I just said, if you think I'm going to take this lot out of this hotel, I had 3 bands on the road with me. There was the Exploited, Infra Riot and someone else I can't think of at the moment. I said, if you think I'm going to take them out now and try and sort it out, it's going to be ridiculous. Let's leave it for a while. And called it all down and they were fine. I got them out of there about 7 o'clock in the morning, which is not a good time for a band to start leaving. And everything was okay, but it was pretty ridiculous at the time. When you got the police banging on your door at 4 o'clock in the morning, telling you to get a band out of a hotel, and you can't really see around that hotel because there's so much grass smoke. I mean, that was the most amazing part, was that they didn't actually do them for anything. Just said, leave quietly, get out.
Probably the weirdest place I ever went with Exploited was to West Berlin before the Berlin Wall came down. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's it was a strange setup before the wall came down, because it was West Berlin was in East Germany, and so there was a real paranoia hanging over the city. It was a lot of decaying architecture where we were. It very much it could have been pre-war Germany, really, for the feeling of it. I mean, in the sense of the decadence, early 30s Germany could have been. And there was a very strange gigs we went to. I always remember this. There were some gorgeous punk girls, really gorgeous punk girls, who had rats inside their leather jackets. And I remember watching this girl take the rat out and start French kissing this rat. And I thought, I'd never say anything like this, but it certainly didn't happen, at the Under Club or the Bridge House or anywhere like that. We saw dogs and donkeys at the gigs, but never rats. And this is so. I mean, there was a real weirdness about it. And when the band went on, it just ignited. It was, I mean, not physical violence, but I mean, there was just a real energy running through the place, and it was one hell of a gig. It was one of the most exciting gigs I've ever been to.
A couple, my brother, we done this gig in America. Right, my brother shit into this plastic bag. Right, and there's all these Americans that it was in was it? Oh fuck! It was near. What was it? fuck, it doesn't matter. Some of the states there, I can't remember the fucking name of the place. Right, he was on stage, had a shit in his bag, it was like, it was like rabbit drop-ins there. Fucking, it's like, so he's like, who wants this? And there's all these cunts at the front, of the greedy cunts, and then, put your hand out. So this lassie put her hand out with 2 hands, and he poured the shit in, and she actually goes, there's another time when I fucking, pissed in this fucking, pissed in this big massive fucking juggy fucking lager and that, eh? So pissed in it all like, and like all these cunts, all the cunts have just been just been wankers. So we said, what drink of that? So I hit myself in, they're like, fucking drinking that away. And Charlie for the subs came in, he's like, yeah, I'll have a drink. But Charlie, didn't drink that. He's like, but Charlie's still holding a drink here. I might never do that one, Charlie, eh? Sorry, mate.
With the thrash metal scene taking off in a big way, bands such as Metallica and Anthrax were mixing ancient heavy metal riffs with the intensity of bands like The Exploited and GBH. With thrash compilations being released on both sides of the Atlantic, punk rock was to be heavily influenced by this, with bands such as English Dogs and Broken Bones pushing the boundaries of punk that much further, leaving new wave punk all but dead. Even today, American bands such as Guns N' Roses and Skid Row use the same attitude which got The Exploited noticed all those years ago.
See, the funny thing about bands like The Exploited is they had much greater influence in America than they ever did in Britain. I mean, the American music scene is much healthier. The rock industry in the States is much healthier than it is in Britain anyway. And in America, there was none of the silly prejudice about the oi bands that surrounded them in Britain. And so a lot of the better of the new wave of heavy metal bands that took off in the States in the 80s, certainly bands like Guns N' Roses and I can't remember the names of the thrash bands now, but I mean they always cited the oi bands, and they cited The Exploited, they cited the Rejects and bands like that as being big influences on them. And I think you can, when you listen to their music and how far removed it is from something like Judas Priest or something like that, you know, you can hear that influence in it.
Music for Nations, Martin Hooker's new home, signed The Exploited. The band's first release for their label was the Jesus Is Dead EP, the band's first ever 12-inch single. Containing 4 powerful tracks, Politicians featured Wattie making a phone call to the President of the USA, some 6 years before Bono of U2 decided to use the trick on stage.
Hello, could I talk to Mr. Regan? It's Wattie from The Exploited.
No, I'm sorry. President Reagan isn't available. Is there any message you'd like to leave for the President?
Tell him to take care.
With another progression in sound, this was the last record formally reviewed by the UK press. By this time, the punk movement in Britain was well and truly dead on its feet. Yet all over Europe and the States, crowds of between 3,000 and 10,000 people were flocking in to see them. In Spain, the band were even mentioned in the same breath as Michael Jackson and Madonna, and were met at the airport by national TV crews. Deptford John, according to the Link newsletter, has left The Exploited, and it certainly wasn't due to musical differences. John later went on to become Dogs D'Amore roadie and was last heard of knocking out Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses. Another live album came in the form of Live and Loud, a bootleg on Streetlink Records featuring various lineups from the band's history.
There were people in the band before, like they're not committed to the band. Because they're only in it because they want to tour, because they get to tour and they want to they think they can make a lot of money quick. I mean, they're just like, they're saying that like big slapping them and telling them to piss off. Like, but like, you've got to be like, to me you've got to be committed. You've got to be committed to the music. And if it wasn't for that, I'd like fucking have packed it in and fucking kill myself probably. I wouldn't have killed myself, I would have fucking killed some other cunt.
From '87, the lineup changes have been almost as often as the UK subs. With the thrash hardcore sound obviously rubbing off on The Exploited, they recorded the almost grindcore Death Before Dishonour album and the worn out 12-inch. With Nigel on guitar and Smeeks, who turns out to be the band's longest serving bass player, Wattie's lyrics on the album turned away from nuclear atrocities to almost paranoid personal frustrations in driving me insane and pulling you down. A live video was recorded in Nottingham and featured a frank interview with Watty. The band played a storming gig at London's Dingwalls to a capacity crowd, then third on a massive bill at an all-day concert with the likes of the UK Subs and GBH at East London's On the Streets gig. Finishing the year with a co-headline with the Angelic Upstarts at London's Astoria, the gig ended abruptly after tear gas was released during the Upstarts set. Almost unheard of in 88-89 in the UK, the band played only a few gigs in 2 years. 2 of these, ironically, at the George Robey in Finsbury Park, only a few hundred feet away from the now closed Rainbow, where the band had been headlining some 8 years earlier.
This face of death is by far the most devastating. Helpless people were murdered like animals in a slaughterhouse. I personally don't know if this kind of situation could repeat itself, but if it does, we all deserve a life in hell.
1990 saw The Massacre, the most sound piece of work since Troops at Tomorrow, due to an excellent production by Colin Richardson and Watty himself. Branching out into almost speed metal, the band's original beliefs were still intact and shown on Sick Bastard, Don't Pay the Poll Tax and Boys in Blue.
I think they're popular because they've stayed true to their guns, and they were one of the great originals, and they're still there and doing it. I mean, if you still like that type of music, there's not that many bands out there doing what they do. Certainly not doing it as well. And Watty's still a legend. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I think the high point has really been the fact that there still is a huge interest in the band worldwide, and that a group that's now been going for virtually 15 years can still make a living out of it. I mean, by no means are they rich people, nowhere near, but they can certainly make a living out of selling records and touring the world, and still manage to go to all over, Brazil, Japan. I mean, they were in Israel a few months ago. So there's still a big interest in them, and I think that shows that they had something. I mean, it was raw aggression, but they always had something. I think that's quite special when something keeps going. Yeah.
Watty had a lot of. He obviously believed in what he was doing. That's the sort of thing. He had a conviction, and he was genuine in what he did, and he had so much energy on stage, and they had such a dangerous feel about them that I think that set them out from the crowd, really. I think that's why people adopted them and started. They got the following they got. It was because they really were out there on an edge, and not a lot of people talk it and don't walk it, but they were really were mad and bad and dangerous to know.
We're a bit more cynical now, eh? People are a bit more aware of like things and what's going on about us. Well, when we started the band, we started like with. I suppose we did have so many fights that we used to have. We used to fight like other gigs because we smashed the gigs up. But like now we don't do that so much. Mostly it doesn't happen, but like it does now and again. The people try to fuck us about, I think we take the piss, and we just got to stand up for yourself. But as a band now, like I say as a band, the only difference is from now than when we first started it is we're a lot more. Our music's it's got a lot more an edge out, the music's a little bit better, a bit faster. But like I still wouldn't try to change. Still wouldn't try to change like the music. I mean, the music still has to come from the heart. Still it would be like punk music, with a bit of a better production. And if I lose that, they'll just pack the band in it. Because people aren't stupid. People follow the band. They're not stupid. Like, they know if someone's genuine. That's why a lot of bands like what you call them, Anti-Noble League, Chelsea, fucking Stiff Little Fingers. All the bands, like, people know that it's a fucking total sellout. They're only there to make money. Like, it's like everyone wants to make money, but you can do it. But to me, like, if you're in a band, you got to play music like you're true to. If you're in a pop band, that's like, well, that doesn't matter. But to be in a punk band, you've got to actually, because we're singing about antisocial, other things that are happening to us. So So like people thought they were false, said they wouldn't buy the records, they wouldn't come to their gigs.
In '92, a US leg of a world tour turned sour. One date saw Watty trash a £5,000 lighting rig as a revenge when the promoter threw people out of the club for stage diving. Another date, where a member of the audience attacked the singer, resulted in a free-for-all, leaving Watty with a smashed hand that went septic, needed a week's hospital treatment and delayed the tour. The UK's biggest gig of the year came in the form of an all-dayer at Brixton Academy entitled Fuck Reading. Featuring the Exploited further on the bill to Sham 69 and the Upstarts, this gig was followed again by more line-up changes. '93 saw the band preparing for a new album. Tours of South America, Israel, the United States and Europe effectively made the band one of the most travelled bands in the world. Major public interest grew for the band again, as new American press darlings Nirvana were to employ Big John as a temporary second guitarist, whilst top thrash band Slayer and rapper Ice-T covered 3 tracks from the Troops album for inclusion in the film The Judgment Night. This led to the name of the Exploited being blurted out on MTV networks worldwide, and Punk's Not Dead from the Palm Cove video even being played on MTV Europe's 120-minute show. Sadly, as with it as MTV claimed to be, they still haven't the bottle to do a full feature on the band. August saw the second Fuck Reading all-dayer, with the Exploited second on the bill to the reformed Anti-Noah League, and featured Watty on stage with Animal to duet on So What.
It's like we done the massacre, right? Like with like Metal Hammer, Kerrang, they're all getting like 5-star reviews. What to do all these articles? But for the like 3 or 4 years before that, they wouldn't put any like they were exploited. They wouldn't put and nothing they were exploited. They put gigs. We'd phone them up, right, and put the gigs in that and gig dates. They wouldn't put them in. They needed time for us. And when we got that, done the massacre, they all gave it good reviews because they're a fucking good album. And like they all wanted to talk to us. They wanted to talk to us. So, like the record company would phone up and say, well, they want to do an interview. I'd say who? They tell us who. I'd say fuck off. Like because like, to me like they don't got time. If you can't like talk to us or fucking like or like have anything to do with the band when we're going through a bad time, then they expected like fucking jump on the band when we're going through a good time to promote your paper or whatever it is.
More touring ensued in early '94, with the band going into the studio in June to record their 7th studio album. Holed up in a residential studio somewhere in the deepest depths of Surrey, all was not good. Trivial arguments turned into major rows with the studio's management. With UK street punk still having a roaring success abroad and the still loyal UK following, this album was to be one of the most eagerly awaited in the last few years.
In the studios for 4 weeks, we've had like lots of problems with like, people that are taking equipment out of the studios because it belonged to 2 people, and like we're splitting up, and like one promised us he wouldn't take the equipment out until we finished being there. But they'd wake up next day, we'd go in and go, where the fuck's all the equipment? This was costing like £600 a day, and so we'd end up like, spending like for 3 hours like, arguing with them, saying fucking bring it back before we smash you up and that. So eventually, like, with trouble with the equipment, like as well, like getting the right sound. I must have hired about fucking 8 or 9 guitar amps and fucking all different stuff and drum kits. And we still, so that was in June '94.
Just a complete and utter nightmare for...
You owe us!
With new street punk bands in the UK citing bands like The Exploited as influences and the major music rag's new invention, New Wave of New Wave, the fans' interest in them is still good. However, for the next few years at least, it looks like the future for the band still lies abroad, and as unemployment pushes higher and higher, and the reason for punk's original existence are more relevant than ever, the band are left to continue to roam the world and sing about issues of real social importance. The UK major music scene lays in a shambles, where the youth are content to listen to egotistical American stadium rockers, or sit in apathy and listen to the industry-manufactured bullshit. Gone are the days when the music was played by kids on the streets, and back are the days where kids pay £20 for a t-shirt down Carnaby Street. Punk's dead. Long live punk.
It's this way! Again, there's only one to go!